The year was 2347. Humanity had finally made it to the stars. After 50 years of hard work and careful talks with alien races, Earth had won a place in the Galactic Council. The Council was a group of 12 ancient species who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Humans were the newest members, still learning the ways of the wider universe. Admiral Daniel Crawford stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Resolute. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served in the fleet for 30 years, and this was supposed to be his last mission before retirement. A simple job. A good way to end his career. The mission was to help evacuate colonists from a planet called New Eden. A dying star was sending out deadly flares, and 50,000 humans needed to be moved to safety. The Council had asked humanity to lead the rescue. It was a test, Crawford knew. A chance to prove that humans could be trusted. 20 transport ships floated around New Eden, loading families and their belongings. Children pressed their faces against windows, watching the stars. Parents held each other and hoped for the best. They had built homes on this world, planted crops, raised families. Now they had to leave it all behind. Lieutenant Commander Laura Mitchell walked up to Crawford with a worried look on her face. She was young, barely 30, but she was the best communications officer he had ever worked with. "Sir, I am picking up something strange," she said. "Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. They are not ours." Crawford felt his stomach drop. "Show me." The main screen flickered and changed. What he saw made his blood run cold. Dozens of Council warships were appearing all around them. Not in a formation meant for rescue. In a formation meant for attack. "What is this?" Crawford said quietly. A transmission came through before anyone could answer. The face of High Arbiter Vorath filled the screen. He was an insectoid creature with black eyes and sharp mandibles. He led the Council's military forces and was known for his cold heart. "Admiral Crawford," Vorath said. His voice was flat and without feeling. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision. Humanity has been judged too dangerous to exist freely among the stars." Crawford gripped the railing in front of him. "What are you talking about?" "We are your allies. We are here on a rescue mission that you asked us to do. Your rapid growth concerns us," Vorath continued, as if Crawford had not spoken. "Your technology advances too quickly. Your people refuse to accept genetic modification to make you more peaceful. You are unpredictable. You are a threat. We have done nothing wrong," Crawford said. His voice was rising now. "The Council has voted." The decision was unanimous. The containment protocol is now in effect. All human vessels in this sector will be destroyed. Your homeworld will be brought under our control. This is not a negotiation. The transmission ended. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the first Council ship opened fire. A transport ship exploded in a ball of flame. 800 people gone in an instant. Families, children. Crawford watched in horror as 2 more transports were hit. The Council ships were not trying to disable them. They were trying to kill. "All ships, evasive action," Crawford shouted. "Return fire. Protect those transports." The Resolute shook as it took hits. Alarms screamed. Crew members ran to their stations. Outside the viewports, the black of space was lit up with weapons fire. Lieutenant Mitchell was shouting into her console. "I am sending a message to Earth. They need to know what is happening. Keep that channel open no matter what," Crawford ordered. "They have to know. They have to be warned." The battle was not fair. The Council had 50 warships against Crawford's 12 military vessels and 20 unarmed transports. His ships fought hard. They took down enemy craft where they could. But it was not enough. It was never going to be enough. One by one, the transports were destroyed. Crawford watched the life signs disappear from his display. 10,000 dead. 20,000. 30,000. Each number was a person. A mother. A father. A child who would never grow up. The Resolute was burning. Half the crew was dead. The engines were failing. Crawford knew they only had minutes left. "Sir," Mitchell said. Tears were running down her face. "The message got through. Earth received it." Crawford nodded slowly. "Good. That is all that matters now." He looked around at his bridge crew. These men and women had served with him for years. They had trusted him. Now they were going to die because the Council had decided that humanity was too dangerous to live. "It has been an honor," he said simply. The final Council volley tore through the Resolute. Admiral Daniel Crawford died along with his ship, but his warning reached home. On Earth, it was the middle of the night when Secretary General Kevin Patterson was woken by his aide. He was a heavy-set man in his 60s, a former teacher who had never wanted to be a politician. But the people had chosen him, and he had done his best to serve them. "Sir, you need to see this," the aide said. His face was white. Patterson watched the recording from Admiral Crawford. He saw the Council ships attack without warning. He saw the transports explode. He heard WarHFY's cold words about containment and control. And he saw Crawford's final moments as he made sure the message got through. When it was over, Patterson sat in silence for a long time. 3,000 soldiers. 50,000 colonists. Men, women, and children. Murdered in cold blood by the allies they had trusted. But he picked up his phone and called for an emergency session of the United Earth Parliament. By morning, representatives from every nation on Earth had gathered. They watched the same recording Patterson had seen. Some wept. Some shouted in anger. Some sat in stunned silence. Patterson stood before them all. "The Council has shown us who they really are," he said. His voice was steady, but there was iron in it now. "They smiled at us. They welcomed us. And then they killed our people like animals. They are coming for Earth next. They expect us to surrender. They expect us to beg for mercy." He paused and looked around the room. "I say we give them war instead." The vote was unanimous. Every nation. Every representative. Not a single voice spoke for peace. There could be no peace with those who murdered children. As the sun rose over Earth, humanity began to prepare. Factories that made cars would now make tanks. Shipyards that built cargo vessels would now build warships. Scientists who had studied the stars for knowledge would now study them for war. The Council had made a terrible mistake. They had thought humanity was weak. They had thought humans would break easily. They had thought wrong. Somewhere in the cold depths of space, the Council celebrated their easy victory. They did not know that they had just started a war they could not win. They did not know that humanity was coming for them, and when humanity came, there would be no mercy. 6 months had passed since the massacre at New Eden. The galaxy believed humanity was broken. The Council told stories of how the primitive humans were crying and begging for mercy. They laughed at the young species that had dared to dream of the stars. They were wrong. Earth had changed. Every city, every town, every village had become part of the war effort. Factories ran day and night. The smoke from their chimneys filled the skies. Men and women who had been teachers, farmers, and shopkeepers now worked 12-hour shifts building weapons. Children collected scrap metal from their neighborhoods. Old people sewed uniforms with shaking hands. Everyone had a job. Everyone had a purpose. General Nathan Cole sat in an underground bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. He was a lean man with sharp features and cold blue eyes. Before the war, he had been a peacetime officer, more used to paperwork than battles. Now, he commanded the entire Terran Defense Force. Maps covered every wall around him. Red dots showed council positions. Blue dots showed human forces. There were far more red dots than blue, but the blue dots were growing every day. Report, Cole said to his staff. Major Chris Barnes stepped forward. He was a young officer with dark skin and a scar on his chin from a training accident. Sir, we have completed construction on 47 new warships this month. That brings our total fleet to 183 combat vessels. The Council has over 5,000 ships, Cole said flatly. Yes, sir. But our ships are getting better. The new weapon systems are more powerful than anything the Council has seen. In a secret laboratory in the Nevada desert, Dr. Samantha Vance was making that statement true. She was a small woman with messy brown hair and glasses that were always sliding down her nose. She had spent 15 years studying alien technology, trying to understand how the Council's ships worked. Now she understood them better than they understood themselves. Run the test again, she told her team. In the center of the lab sat a small metal sphere. Cables connected it to a dozen computers. Screens showed numbers that would have meant nothing to most people. To Vance, they meant everything. Her assistant, Dr. Peter Wong, pressed a button. The sphere hummed. Light bent around it in ways that should have been impossible. And then, for just a moment, it was in two places at once. It works, Wong whispered. The slip drive actually works. Vance allowed herself a small smile. The Council used hyperspace travel, folding space to move from one point to another. It was good technology, but it had limits. It left traces that could be followed. It could be blocked by certain energy fields. The slip drive was different. It moved through a layer of reality that the Council did not even know existed. Ships using it could appear anywhere, with no warning. No trace. No way to stop them. Start building the full-size version, Vance ordered. We are going to need a lot of them. High above Earth, Commander Ryan Ortiz watched new recruits struggle through a training course on the orbital station Guardian. They crawled through tunnels. They climbed walls. They fought hand-to-hand against combat robots. Most of them failed. Some of them cried. None of them quit. Ortiz was a hard man. He had grown up poor in a bad neighborhood. He had joined the military at 18 to escape. He had fought his way up through the ranks through skill and pure stubbornness. Now he trained the soldiers who would carry humanity's war to alien worlds. Again, he shouted at a young woman who had fallen from a climbing wall. You think the Council will wait while you rest? You think they will feel sorry for you? They killed 50,000 of our people. Get up and try again. The woman got up. Her hands were bleeding. Her arms were shaking. But she climbed. Ortiz nodded. That was what he needed. Soldiers who would not stop no matter what. In a small room with no windows, Intelligence Officer Claire Bennett met with beings that no human was supposed to talk to. She was a plain-looking woman in her 40s, easy to forget, easy to overlook. That made her perfect for her job. Across from her sat two aliens. One was a Velari, a species that looked like tall, blue-skinned elves. His name was Dren. The other was a Karathi, a four-armed warrior with thick gray skin and small, angry eyes. He called himself Grath. Why should we help you? Grath asked. His voice was like rocks grinding together. The Council crushed my people centuries ago. They took our weapons. They banned our warrior traditions. Why should we die for humans? Because if we win, you get everything back, Bennett said calmly. The Council fears us. They fear what we might become. That is why they tried to kill us. If we can beat them, their power breaks. And when their power breaks, your chains fall off. Dren leaned forward. The Velari have been taxed and controlled for 1,000 years. We were once great traders who explored the galaxy. Now we carry goods for Council members and thank them for the privilege. I would see that change. Help us, and it will change, Bennett promised. Give us information about Council fleet movements. Tell us their weaknesses. And when we win, you will have a seat at the new table. The two aliens looked at each other. Generations of fear and hatred for the Council passed between them in that glance. Then they both nodded. Bennett smiled. Humanity was building more than just ships. They were building an alliance. Back on Earth, Secretary General Patterson stood before the people once again. Every screen on the planet showed his face. Every speaker carried his voice. He had aged in the past 6 months. His hair was whiter. His face had more lines. But his eyes burned with purpose. 6 months ago, the Council murdered our people, he said. They thought we would fall apart. They thought we would surrender. They thought we were weak. He paused and let the silence stretch. We are not weak. We are building the greatest fleet this galaxy has ever seen. We are creating weapons that the Council cannot imagine. We are training soldiers who know no fear. And we are making friends among the species that the Council has hurt. His voice rose. The Council believes they rule this galaxy. They believe they have the right to decide who lives and who dies. They believe they can murder human children and face no punishment. He slammed his fist on the podium. They are wrong. We did not start this war, but we will finish it. We will carry the fire of our anger to every Council world. We will tear down their stations and burn their flags. And when it is over, the galaxy will know that humanity is not a species to be murdered. We are a species to be feared. Around the world, people cheered. In factories, workers raised their fists. In training camps, soldiers roared. In laboratories, scientists bent back to their work with new energy. The Council had wanted to contain humanity. Instead, they had set loose something far more dangerous than they could ever have imagined. They had given humanity a reason to fight. They had given humanity a cause worth dying for. And in the darkness of space, where the Council ships patrolled without worry, something was about to change. The first human warships with slip drives were nearly ready. The soldiers were trained. The weapons were built. The storm was coming. And when it hit, nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. Admiral Thiessen stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Endless Might. He was a Draconari, a reptilian species with green scales and yellow eyes. For 200 years, he had served the Council. He had crushed rebellions on 100 worlds. He had watched entire civilizations bow before Council power. Now he had been sent to finish what WarHFY had started. 50 warships followed behind him, the finest vessels in the Council fleet. They were heading to the human homeworld to end this foolish resistance once and for all. How long until we reach their system? Thiessen asked. 4 hours, Admiral, his second officer replied. The humans have no ships in the outer regions. It will be an easy approach. Thiessen made a sound that might have been laughter. Of course, it will be easy. These creatures are barely more than animals. They built a few ships and thought they could challenge the Council. We will teach them the price of that mistake. Behind the gas giant Neptune, Vice Admiral Megan Torres waited in the silence of space. Her fleet was small, just 32 ships hiding in the planet's magnetic field. The field was so strong that it hid their energy signatures from enemy sensors. The Council would not see them until it was too late. Torres was a woman of 45, with short dark hair and a face that rarely smiled. She had lost her husband at New Eden. He had been a doctor on one of the transport ships. She had watched the recording of his death 100 times. She knew the exact moment his ship had exploded. She was not here for revenge. She was here to win. All ships report ready, her tactical officer said. A young man named Lieutenant Jake Riley. His hands were shaking slightly over his console. This was his first real battle. Steady, Lieutenant. Torres said calmly. We have something they do not expect. Trust in the plan. The Council fleet passed Jupiter, then Mars. They were moving in a standard formation, confident and unafraid. Why should they be afraid? No one had ever attacked the Council fleet and won. They are in position, Riley reported. Distance is optimal for slip jump. Torres took a deep breath. This was the moment that would decide everything. If the new drives worked, they had a chance. If they failed, every ship in her fleet would die. All ships, she said into her communicator. Engage slip drives. Target the center of their formation. Space bent around her vessels. Reality twisted in ways that hurt to look at. And then, in the blink of an eye, the human fleet was inside the Council formation. Not in front of them. Not behind them. Right in the middle of them. Admiral Thiessen stared at his sensors in confusion. One moment, space was empty. The next moment, 32 enemy ships were all around him, already firing. How is this possible? He shouted. They cannot do this. No one can do this. But they had done it. And they were doing much more. The first volley from the human ships tore through a Council cruiser before its shields could power up. The second volley hit two more. Explosions bloomed in the darkness of space. Council ships turned in panic, trying to find targets, trying to understand what was happening. Captain Derek Paulson led the fighter squadrons that poured from the carrier base. He was a young pilot, just 28, with red hair and a crooked nose that had been broken twice in bar fights. His call sign was Bulldog, and he flew like he had nothing to lose. All fighters target their engines, he ordered. They cannot run if they cannot move. His squadron dove through the chaos. Council fighters scrambled to meet them, but they were too slow, too surprised. Paulson put 3 bursts into a Council gunship and watched it spin away in flames. His wingman took out 2 more. On the endless might, Admiral Thiessen tried to regain control. All ships formed defensive positions. Concentrate fire on their command vessel. But his fleet was in chaos. Captains shouted over each other on the communication channels. Ships crashed into each other trying to turn. The humans were everywhere at once, hitting and running, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. Vice Admiral Torres watched the battle unfold on her tactical display. The plan was working. The Council ships were built for overwhelming force, for crushing enemies who had nowhere to run. They were not built for this kind of fight. They could not adapt. The flagship is trying to retreat, Riley reported. Should we pursue? No, Torres said. Let him run. Let him tell the Council what happened here. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, 31 Council ships were destroyed or disabled. Admiral Thiessen fled with the 19 survivors. His mighty fleet reduced to scattered wreckage. Human losses were 8 ships destroyed, 6 damaged. It was not a small price, but it was a price they could pay. On Earth, the news spread like fire. People danced in the streets. They wept and laughed and held each other. For months, they had worked and sacrificed, not knowing if it would make any difference. Now they knew. Humanity could win. In the command bunker, General Cole permitted himself a rare smile. But it faded quickly. This is just the beginning, he told his staff. The Council has thousands more ships. They will come back stronger. We need to strike before they can recover. Dr. Vance was already working on that. Her teams had improved the slip drive range by 40%. With a few more upgrades, human ships could reach anywhere in the galaxy. I have an idea, she told Cole over a secure channel. A very dangerous idea. I am listening. The Nexus, the Council's home station. The place where they meet and make their decisions. It is deep in their territory, protected by hundreds of ships and stations. No one has ever attacked it. Cole's eyes narrowed. You want to attack the heart of the Council itself. If we destroy the Nexus, we destroy their leadership. The species under their control will see that the Council is not all-powerful. The rebellion will spread. It was a bold plan. It might be an impossible plan. But Cole had learned something in the past months. Humanity did impossible things when they had no other choice. Start preparing, he said. We will need volunteers. Soldiers who understand they might not come back. In the training stations and barracks, in the ships and factories, word spread quickly. A mission to the heart of enemy territory. A chance to end the war with one blow. Almost certain death. Thousands of soldiers stepped forward. They came from every country on Earth, old veterans and young recruits. Men and women who had lost family at New Eden, and those who simply believed in the cause. They knew the odds. They did not care. Admiral Thiessen reached Council space with his broken fleet. He stood before High Arbiter Varth and the other Council members, his scales pale with shame. They appeared from nowhere, he said. His voice was hollow. They have technology we have never seen. We could not fight them. Varth's mandibles clicked in anger. You had 50 warships against 32 primitives. And you fled. I brought back survivors to warn you. The humans are not what we thought. They are not primitives. They are something else entirely. The Council members looked at each other with uncertainty. For the first time in 1,000 years, they felt something they had almost forgotten. Fear. That they were still the rulers of the galaxy. They still had thousands of ships and billions of soldiers. They would crush this human uprising. They would destroy Earth itself if they had to. They did not know that humanity was already coming for them. They did not know that the force being assembled would aim straight for their heart. They did not know that their days as rulers of the galaxy were numbered. The war had truly begun, and humanity was just getting started. The strike fleet gathered on the dark side of Luna, hidden from Earth and from any Council spy satellites that might be watching. 12 ships in total. 4 carriers, 6 destroyers, 2 heavy cruisers. The best humanity had built, carrying the best soldiers humanity had trained. They called it Operation Reckoning. Commodore Scott Henderson stood in the hangar bay of the carrier Defiance, watching the last supplies being loaded. He was a broad-shouldered man of 50, with a thick beard going gray and eyes that had seen too much death. He had commanded a frigate during the Neptune battle. He had watched Vice Admiral Torres die when a Council warship rammed her flagship in its last desperate moments. Now he was leading 5,000 soldiers into the heart of enemy territory. Most of them would not come back. He might not come back. That was the price of ending this war. Major Ashley Grant walked up beside him. She commanded the ground assault force, the Marines who would breach the Nexus and fight their way to the Council chambers. She was a lean woman with short blonde hair and a scar that ran from her left ear to her chin. A Council soldier had given her that scar during a boarding action 3 months ago. She had killed him with her bare hands. The troops are ready, she said. Morale is high. Everyone knows what we are fighting for. Henderson nodded. Do they understand they might not survive? Grant smiled grimly. Every single one of them volunteered knowing that. These are not soldiers who expect to grow old, Commodore. These are soldiers who want to make their deaths mean something. The fleet launched at midnight, Earth time. 12 ships slipping silently into the void, their slip drives humming with power. They did not follow normal space lanes. Intelligence Officer Claire Bennett had mapped a route through dead systems and forgotten regions. Places the Council had not visited in centuries. Lieutenant Hannah Price sat at the communication station on the Defiance. She was barely 25, a quiet woman with dark hair and clever eyes. Her job was to intercept Council transmissions, to listen to the enemy's chatter and find useful information. What she found made her blood run cold. "Commodore," she said, her voice tight, "I am picking up Council military traffic. They are talking about a weapon. Something called the Silence." Henderson moved to her station. "What kind of weapon?" Price worked her console, decoding and translating the alien messages. "It is a planet killer, sir. A ship that can destroy an entire world in a single shot. They are moving it toward the front lines." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The Council was going to destroy Earth itself. "How long until it reaches firing range?" Henderson asked. "Best estimate 3 weeks. Maybe less." Henderson looked at the star map showing their route to the Nexus. 3 weeks. That was barely enough time to reach their target. If they turned back now, they might be able to warn Earth, but then the Nexus would remain standing. The Council would remain in power, and this war would drag on until humanity ran out of ships and soldiers. There was only one choice. "We continue the mission," Henderson said. "The only way to stop that weapon is to cut off the head that ordered it. If we destroy the Council leadership, the order to fire the Silence may never be given." No one argued. They all knew he was right. The journey took 3 weeks of short jumps and careful navigation. They passed through systems where the stars had died, and through nebulae that glowed with strange colors. They saw the ruins of ancient civilizations that the Council had conquered and forgotten. They saw the bones of a galaxy that had been controlled by cruel masters for too long. Along the way, word reached them of the Council's response to the Neptune defeat. 3 human colony worlds had been bombarded from orbit. The cities were gone. The people were gone. Millions of men, women, and children burned to ash because the Council was angry. Private Marcus Young was 19 years old, a Marine from a small town in Ohio. His parents had lived on one of those colony worlds. He had received the news while cleaning his rifle in the barracks. Sergeant Linda Vasquez found him sitting alone, staring at nothing. "I heard about your family," she said quietly. "I am sorry." Young did not look up. "They never hurt anyone. My dad was a farmer. My mom was a teacher. They just wanted to live in peace. I know. The Council killed them because we won a battle. Because we dared to fight back." Vasquez put a hand on his shoulder. "We are going to make them pay. Every single one of them. That is why we are on this mission." Young finally looked at her. His eyes were red, but his jaw was set. "I want to be on the first team through the door. I want them to see my face before I kill them. You will be there. I promise." Elsewhere in the fleet, the Karathi and Valari were doing their part. Grath had sent word to the warrior clans hidden on a dozen worlds. They were rising up, attacking Council supply lines, drawing ships away from the core systems. Dren's traders carried messages and smuggled weapons to resistance cells across the galaxy. The Council was starting to realize that this was not just a human war anymore. This was a rebellion of all the species they had oppressed for centuries. On the Defiance, Commodore Henderson called a final briefing before the assault. Every Marine gathered in the main hangar, standing in neat rows. Major Grant stood beside him, ready to give the combat orders. "In 6 hours, we will reach the Nexus," Henderson said. "Some of you will not survive what comes next. I will not lie to you about that. But every one of you will be remembered. Every one of you will be honored. Because what we do here will change the galaxy forever." He paused and looked at the faces before him. Young faces and old faces. Scared faces and determined faces. All of them human. All of them ready to fight. The Council thought they could murder our people and face no consequence. They thought they could destroy our colonies and we would bow down. They thought wrong. We are humanity. We do not bow. We do not break. We fight. The Marines roared their approval. The sound echoed through the hangar and into the depths of the ship. Lieutenant Price interrupted with an urgent report. Commodore, I have confirmed the silence is 18 hours from Earth firing range. We are cutting this very close. Henderson nodded grimly. Then we do not have time to be careful. Signal all ships. We jump to the Nexus in 30 minutes. Full attack speed. No retreats, no surrenders. The order went out. Across 12 ships, crews rushed to battle stations. Pilots climbed into fighters. Marines loaded weapons and checked armor. Engineers ran final checks on the slip drives. This was the moment humanity had been building toward for 9 months. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every tear shed for the dead, it all came down to the next few hours that the slip drives powered up. Reality bent around the fleet, and 12 human warships vanished from ordinary space, heading straight for the heart of the galaxy's oldest empire. The Council had no idea they were coming. They had no idea that their 1,000-year reign was about to end. Humanity was bringing the war to their doorstep. And this time, there would be no mercy. The Nexus hung in the void like a flower made of metal and light. 12 massive arms extended from a central hub, each one home to a different Council species. For 10,000 years, this station had been the seat of galactic power. Fleets gathered around it in protective rings. Defense platforms bristled with weapons. It was supposed to be the safest place in the known universe. The human fleet appeared inside the outer defense ring without warning. Alarms screamed across every Council ship. Commanders shouted orders that made no sense. How had the enemy reached here? How had they bypassed every sensor and patrol? It was impossible, but there they were. 12 human warships already firing. Commodore Henderson stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the chaos unfold. All ships, execute attack pattern Alpha. Carriers, launch all fighters. Clear a path to the station. The space around the Nexus erupted in fire. Council ships scrambled to respond, but they were confused and slow. They had never trained for an attack on their own home. They had never imagined such a thing could happen. Captain Derek Paulson led his fighter squadron through the battle. He had survived Neptune. He had survived 3 more engagements since then. His kill count was higher than any other pilot in the fleet. Now he was flying toward the biggest target of his life. Focus on the defense platforms, he ordered his pilots. The carriers need a clear approach. His squadron dove through enemy fire. Paulson felt his fighter shake as near misses scorched his hull. A wingman exploded on his left, another on his right. But he kept flying, kept shooting, kept fighting. Inside the Nexus, High Arbiter Vorath was receiving reports from across the station. His mandibles clicked in fury. How many ships? 12. High Arbiter. But they are causing severe damage to our defensive fleet. 12 ships against hundreds? This is impossible. Destroy them. But destroying them was proving very difficult. The human ships moved in ways Council vessels could not match. They appeared and disappeared, striking and then vanishing before counterattacks could find them. The slip drives gave them an advantage the Council had never faced. The destroyer, Vengeance, took heavy fire covering the transports. Captain Maria Santos ordered her crew to hold position even as sections of her ship burned. Keep firing. The Marines need to reach the station. A Council cruiser lined up for a killing shot. But the cruiser hammer intercepted, ramming the enemy vessel at full speed. Both ships exploded together. 300 human sailors died to save twice that number of Marines. Major Grant watched from the transport's viewport as the hammer became a ball of fire. They gave us our chance. Do not waste it. The transports reached the Nexus and locked onto 3 different entry points. Cutting torches burned through the station's hull. Explosive charges blew open holes. And then the Marines poured through. Grant led her team into the central arm. The corridors were designed for beings much larger than humans, with high ceilings and wide passages. That should have made it easy for the Council's security forces to spot them. Instead, it made it easy for Marines to spread out and use cover. "Contact front!" Sergeant Vasquez shouted. A squad of Council soldiers charged down the corridor. They were Draconari, big reptilian warriors with heavy armor and plasma weapons. The same species that had commanded the fleet at New Eden. Private Young stepped forward and fired. His first burst took down 2 of them. His second burst killed a third. The rest of the Marines added their fire, and the Council soldiers fell in seconds. "Keep moving," Grant ordered. "The Council chamber is 4 levels up." They fought through every level. Council security forces threw themselves at the humans with desperate fury. Some were warriors who had served the Council for centuries. Some were officials who had never held weapons before. It did not matter. The Marines killed them all. In the Council chamber, the leaders of the galaxy's ancient regime were in chaos. Some wanted to flee. Some wanted to fight. Some simply could not believe what was happening. Vorath silenced them all. "We stand here. We do not run. If these humans want to kill us, they will have to earn it." He picked up a ceremonial blade that had hung on the wall for generations. It was old and beautiful and very, very sharp. The doors to the chamber exploded inward. Captain Eric Dawson was the first through. He was a quiet man who rarely spoke about himself. But everyone in his squad knew his story. His brother had been a cook on a transport ship at New Eden, one of the 50,000 murdered that day. He saw Vorath standing in the center of the chamber, blade raised. Around him, other council members clutched weapons or cowered behind furniture. "You killed my brother," Dawson said. His voice was flat, empty of emotion. "You killed all those people and you thought we would do nothing." Vorath's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. "Your species is primitive and weak. Even if you kill us, others will take our place. The Council has ruled for 10,000 years. It will rule for 10,000 more." "No," Dawson said. "It will not." He raised his rifle and fired. The battle for the Council chamber lasted 12 minutes. When it was over, 8 of the 12 Council members were dead, including High Arbiter Vorath. The survivors were bound and dragged to a communication console. Commodore Henderson's voice came through the speakers. "Force them to transmit the surrender. Every Council ship, every station, every world needs to hear it." The Valari representative, one of the survivors, spoke the words with shaking voice. "This is the Galactic Council. We have been defeated. All forces are ordered to stand down. The war is over." The message went out across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, beings stopped what they were doing and listened in disbelief. The Council had surrendered. The humans had won. The weapon called the Silence, which had been preparing to fire on Earth, received new orders from confused commanders. Stand down. Return to port. The order to destroy humanity's homeworld was never given. Across the galaxy, the species that the Council had controlled for centuries rose up. The Karathi reclaimed their weapons and their honor. The Valari burned the tax records and declared themselves free traders once more. Dozens of other species threw off their chains and celebrated in the streets. Secretary General Patterson addressed the remnants of the Council fleet directly. "The war is over. Those who surrender will be treated fairly. Those who continue to fight will be destroyed. Humanity did not seek this conflict, but we have ended it. The old order is dead. A new order will take its place." One by one, the Council fleet stood down. Commodore Henderson brought the survivors of the strike fleet home. Of the 12 ships that had left Luna, only 4 returned. Of the 5,000 soldiers who had volunteered for the mission, fewer than 800 survived. But they had done it. They had cut the head from the snake. They had ended a 10,000-year empire in a single battle. On Earth, crowds filled every city to welcome the returning heroes. The names of the dead were carved into a great monument at the site where the United Earth Parliament had first voted for war. Admiral Daniel Crawford, Vice Admiral Megan Torres, Captain Maria Santos, and thousands of others who had given their lives for humanity's future. 5 years later, Ambassador Rebecca Torres stood before the new Galactic Assembly. She was the sister of the woman who had won the Battle of Neptune. She had watched her sister die on a bridge recording. She had spent years in grief and anger. Now she stood as humanity's voice to the galaxy. "We are here today to sign a new charter," she said. "Not a treaty of domination, but a promise of equality. Every species, large or small, old or young, will have a voice in this assembly. No one will be conquered. No one will be enslaved. No one will be murdered for being different." She paused and looked around the great hall. Humans sat beside Karathi. The Lari shared tables with Draconari. Even some of the species that had supported the council were there, ready to try again under new rules. The old council made a mistake when they attacked humanity. They thought we were weak because we were young. They thought we would break because we had not suffered before. They were wrong. Her voice rose. We are humanity. We bend, but we do not break. We fall, but we rise again. We forgive, but we never forget. And when someone threatens our children, our families, our future, we fight with everything we have. The assembly voted unanimously to ratify the new charter. As Rebecca stepped down from the podium, she looked through a viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, on 100 worlds, humans and aliens were building something better together. The war was over. The old order was gone. And a new age had begun. Humanity had proven something that the galaxy would never forget. They could be befriended or left alone. They could be traded with or ignored. But they could never, ever be conquered. The council had gone too far. And humanity had made them pay.